6:17 in the morning. Or maybe it isn't. I don't trust the clock anymore. The hands keep twitching, like they can't decide if they should move forward or back. Same as the sky outside, kind of stuck between sunrise and whatever comes after. The light's wrong. Feels like it's been the same shade for hours. And the air, it's cold, but the kind of cold that doesn't match the season. This is Silas Crane, broadcasting on 104.3 FM. If you're hearing me, then you're awake. Or you think you're awake. Or maybe you're whatever this is. I don't know anymore. What's the last thing you saw? Smoke? Silence? Soldiers? Comment your report like we're logging every broadcast. I've got the backup generator running. Diesel, loud, smells like burnt metal. But it's the only thing keeping this transmitter alive. If it dies, that's it. No more voice. No more way to even pretend someone else is out there. The streets here in Ashford are empty. That's upstate New York, if you don't know the place. Or if you used to know it and can't place it anymore. Half the buildings look the same as they always did, and the other half don't. They're stretched, bent. A house that used to be across the street now looks like it's turned inward, folding on itself. I walked out early this morning and swear the grocery store that was a block away yesterday is now 3 blocks over. Or maybe I'm just moving wrong through time. The first sign that something was wrong wasn't the sky, wasn't the buildings. It was the people. 2 days ago, my neighbor, Mrs. Tanner, came to my door at what I thought was midnight. She was standing there in her robe, clutching a picture frame like it was gold. She said she couldn't sleep because every time she shut her eyes, she woke up in the exact same moment. Same coffee cup in her hand, same bird outside her window, same drop of sweat rolling down her temple. Over and over. And when she tried to change something, anything, it just snapped back. I told her it was probably a dream, maybe low blood sugar. But then it happened to me. I was pouring coffee, mug in my left hand, pot in my right. The radio was on, playing some old Bruce Springsteen song, and halfway through the pour, blink. I was back at the start, pot in my right hand, mug in my left, same Springsteen line, same exact drip of coffee hitting the bottom of the mug. Happened again, and again. I tried to switch hands, tried to skip the coffee altogether. Didn't matter. The loop pulled me back. And then, yesterday morning, the loops broke. Or maybe they didn't. It's hard to explain. I can move forward now, but every time I turn a corner, the street feels wrong. I keep seeing the same guy in a brown coat leaning on a lamppost, except the lamppost isn't always in the same place. Sometimes it's on Main Street, sometimes it's in the park. Once it was in the middle of Route 9, and the guy doesn't move, doesn't blink. I've stopped looking him in the face. The town's dead quiet except for the generator and the hum in the air. That hum. It's not electricity. We've had blackouts for hours, but the sound stays. Like it's inside your bones. The local emergency station, 91.2 FM, cut out yesterday. Last thing I heard was a man saying, "The cities are shifting," before the feed turned into static. I don't even know what that means, but I keep thinking about it every time I look out the window and realize the view is off. Like the buildings are trying to rearrange themselves while no one's watching. I used to think the government would step in if something like this ever happened. But there's nothing. The phones are dead. Landlines too. I tried my old CB set, just static, and my brother in Albany. I can't reach him. I keep wondering if Albany's even in the same place anymore. If you're out there, listening, I need you to do something for me. Every time you wake up, if you still wake up, write down exactly what you see. The date, the weather, the position of the sun. Compare it to the day before. If things don't match, you're not crazy. It's happening to all of us, or at least to the ones still awake. There's talk, well, there was talk before everything went silent, about something in the upper atmosphere, some kind of pulse, maybe from the poles, maybe from above the poles. Nobody agrees. A retired air traffic controller came by the station before things got too bad. He said the first reports came from pilots flying over the Atlantic. They saw the same stretch of ocean repeat beneath them, same clouds, same glint of sunlight on the waves. Some planes tried to turn back, but the coordinates kept spitting them out over the same patch of water. He called it a temporal seam. Said it was like flying into a mirror you couldn't see. And now, well, now we're all inside it. I can feel it messing with my head. I keep thinking I've already said this, like I'm stuck inside my own voice. Maybe you've heard this exact broadcast before. Maybe you'll hear it again tomorrow. It's colder now. My breath's starting to fog, even though the thermostat says 68. And the wind's picked up. No leaves moving, no trash blowing across the street. Just wind, like the world breathing in, holding it. I'm gonna keep this line open as long as I can, as long as the diesel lasts. After that, I don't know. Maybe I'll take the mic and walk until I can't anymore. See if the city's still where it's supposed to be. Or see if it's somewhere else entirely. If you can hear me, write it down. Don't trust your memory. Don't trust the clocks. And if you see the man in the brown coat, don't talk to him. Don't get close. This is Silas Crane, 104.3 FM, Ashford, New York. I'll be here. At least, I think I will. It is later, or I think it is. The wall clock over the mixer says 8:02, but the little red second hand keeps skipping back to the 6, like it trips and refuses to walk past it without permission. The generator is on its 4th gallon since I started talking. I can smell it in the hallway. Diesel sits in the nose like a wet coin. My jacket still holds the chill from outside, a damp cold that shouldn't be here in August. If you're catching this on 104.3 FM, you're still in reach of the tower on the hill above Ashford. The tower light looks steady from the parking lot, but when I stare too long, it blinks in the same rhythm as my heartbeat. And then my heartbeat copies the tower, and I have to look away, or it starts to feel like the light is in charge of me. I went out with a legal pad after the last break and tried to walk 3 blocks to the pharmacy. 3 blocks became 2, and then became 4, depending on which corner I used. The bank that used to sit by the Veterans Memorial is now shoulder to shoulder with the pizza place, only the pizza place isn't the one we had. Same sign, different doors. I pressed my hand to the glass and it was warm like it remembered ovens that aren't burning anymore. I could see a stack of pizza boxes tilted like a card tower. No people. No music. Just the hum that sits under everything now. When I crossed to the pharmacy, the automatic doors didn't open. No power, obviously, but I swear I heard the motor try to wake, the faintest twitch, like the door remembered opening for me once and wanted to do it again, then forgot what it was. I forced it with a tire iron from the station truck. I'm not proud of that, but I need to say it because someone listening will need to hear this and know it's okay to take what keeps you alive. I left cash on the counter out of habit. I don't think it means anything anymore, but my hands did it without asking me first. I grabbed antiseptic, gauze, a bottle of painkillers, and a box of insulin for a man on Willow Street, if I can find Willow Street. where Willow Street decides to be. The first time I felt the day break and reset, I was standing at the sink with coffee, and my hand trembled in the same way 3 times in a row, like a skip on a vinyl. The third time, I laughed because it felt like a magic trick. The fourth time, I dropped the mug. The fifth time, I didn't breathe until the line of the song on the radio finished, and the loop let me move past it. That was 2 mornings ago, except it still tastes like the same morning inside my mouth. My neighbor, Mrs. Tanner, if she is still beside me, if our houses didn't trade places while we weren't looking, told me the birds in her yard were trapped in the same flap of wing. She held her phone up to record them, and the camera app locked. When she looked up again, the birds were different birds, and the tree had 1 more branch. I told her I would check back. I have not seen her since yesterday, when yesterday still meant anything. The last Noé weather band I caught was quiet, no robot voice, just an open carrier tone that rose and dipped like the floor of a lake. I spun the dial across everything, 5:30 a.m. up through 1710, then 88 to 108, both bands. I caught something on 96.9 that wasn't music, not speech either. It was the sound you hear in an empty gymnasium when you think someone whispered your name, only you know no one is in there. It followed me a quarter turn and then slid off the edge of the tuner, as if it had never been there. There was a day when this job was small things. Birthdays on air, the hardware store ad, school closings in winter. Now I keep saying the name of the frequency because it feels like tying a rope around the station so I don't get blown out of it. 104.3 FM. If I say it, I'm holding it. If you say it back in your head, maybe we're holding each other up for a second. There were sirens last night from the direction of the highway, not moving, stuck on. I walked toward them until the sound thinned into a smear, and then came back to life behind me, like I had crossed a seam, and the siren chose a different corner to sit on. On the shoulder of Route 9, a line of cars faced the wrong way, every hood up like they were listening for advice. I tried an ignition with a fresh battery from the station van. The dash lights stuttered and lied about the fuel. The key turned a half-inch past where it should, and then settled into that new position like it had always been designed that way. I shut the hood and wrote, "Leave me for last," on the windshield with a finger, like I was making a deal with the road. Before things went sideways, a retired air traffic controller named Walt brought a stack of old charts into the studio. Walt used to guide planes into Albany and sometimes Boston when they were overworked. He smelled like engine cleaner and mints. He stabbed his finger at the lines and told me they had a morning where nobody could hold a heading. Pilots called in, saying they were flying a perfect line, and the ground under them was repeating. One described the same freighter 3 times, same wake pattern, same gull hanging in a patch of air that didn't move. Another said he turned 10 degrees starboard, and the world turned with him, like the whole map was on a lazy Susan. Walt wasn't supposed to be in a tower anymore, but they called him because he knew how to talk to pilots when the book breaks. He told me he didn't tell anyone the worst thing, that the blips were doubling for breaths at a time. 2 returns where there should be 1. One of them a second late, like the radar was remembering you after you had already moved. He said something about a temporal seam, and then he stopped and rubbed his eyes and said, "Or I'm old, and I'm misreading fear as truth." He left the charts on my desk and promised to call me if it got weirder. The last time I tried his number, my phone rang from the pocket of his coat, hanging on the station coat rack. I don't know how it got there. I don't know how long it had been there. The coat smelled like rain, but it hasn't rained. The air is too still to rain. Power is unreliable in a new way. Not out, not on. Present and absent in the same breath. In the grocery aisles, the freezers are a dream of cold. You can put your hand on the glass and feel winter, but open the door and it's room temperature. The lights in the ceiling flicker together, not like a flicker, more like a blink that doesn't line up with time. The registers have receipts half printed and frozen. Names on those little loyalty cards are stuck on the same 3 letters. I took a crate of canned beans and a box cutter and wrote my name and the date on the carton. Silas. August. The word August looked wrong. It looked like the handle of a door that should be on the other side of the room. I left a note that said, "If you're hungry, take 2 cans and write your name so we know who is still here." I came back this morning, and there were names I know. Rita, the mail clerk who used to tuck coupons into magazines. Dale, who runs the bait shop, and a name I don't, Bethel, scrawled in a kid's hand. Next to each name, someone had drawn a small square, like they were keeping score of something. Rita had 3 squares. Dale had 1. Bethel had many, stacked until they made a little ladder. I'm trying to do the practical part too, even when my mouth wants to talk about the sky. Water matters most. The treatment plant south of us runs on a set of pumps that expect the grid, and the grid is shrugging. If you have pressure in your pipes, fill everything that holds water now. Pots, buckets, clean trash cans, the bathtub if the tub drain holds. If you have bleach that's plain, no scents, no additives, keep it near. 2 drops per liter, 8 drops per gallon, stir, wait 30 minutes, cover it if you can. If the water is cloudy, filter through a cloth first, or set it to settle and pour off the clear top. If you have a camping filter, treat it gently and backflush when you can, because filters are going to be worth more than gas if the weeks keep stacking. Boil if you have fuel. A rolling boil for 1 minute will do it. 3 if you're at a higher elevation, which we are not. I hear myself and think I sound like the pamphlet at the county fair booth. But I want to cut through the fog in your head, and mine. Write it down. 2 drops per liter, 8 per gallon. Boil if you can. Put a lid on it so the strange air doesn't kiss it while you sleep. Food is math now. Not fear, math. Count calories by label if you can. Beans, rice, peanut butter, oats, canned meat, canned fruit and juice. Not syrup if you can help it, but take what you find. Put oil in the plan, because food without fat will wear you down, even if your belly feels full. If you have someone who needs insulin like the man on Willow Street, we need a cooler and ice or a cold basement and rotation. And we need to make decisions together about what carries a person through a day. I keep thinking of the man's name and losing it. I picture his face and it slides, like a photo left in the sun. If you are the man on Willow, I have 1 box. I wrapped it in a towel and put it in the station refrigerator, even though the power treats us like a stranger. The fridge light turns on when I close the door, and off when I open it. I do not trust the light. I trust the towel and the old basement where concrete holds a night chill. I went by the clinic yesterday because I thought maybe a doctor would be there, or the nurse who puts a bandage on you before the tear hits the floor. The automatic doors of the clinic also forgot how to be doors, so I used the same iron and lifted with my shoulder until the gap agreed to me. Inside, the computers were on without being on. Black screens with a smudge of light that had nowhere to go. I found a battery-powered blood pressure cuff and a stack of paper forms. On the top form, someone had drawn a map of town with a path to a circle, and written, "Home?" I stared at the circle, and it moved half an inch to the right, like it had been embarrassed to be caught. I left with a small box of bandages and a book about tetanus, because I thought if I had to read one sentence 5 times to make it stick, at least the 5th time would save a foot from a nail. When I walked out, the parking lot had 1 extra car. I don't know where it came from. The car door was open, and the radio was on, tuned to nothing, whispering the hiss that used to mean the world was normal. There were rumors on the first day. Real rumors, not the internet kind. Because the internet blinked and came back as the internet we had 5 years ago for a few minutes, and then blinked again, as the internet nobody's grandmother could explain. People said a research station in Greenland measured a spike under the ice. Others said an observatory in Puerto Rico, which shouldn't be able to speak anymore because they lost their big ear years back, heard something in the atmospheric ribbon that counts lightning strokes. Someone else swore the GPS constellation jumped like a skipped stone. A friend who used to do contract work for a defense contractor told me the phones at their office rang, and the person on the other end asked for a project that closed in 2014. He told them they had the wrong number. The caller repeated his name in a calm voice and then said, "You're about to have a very long day," and the line died. I grabbed that friend's wrist in the hallway and asked if they were pulling my leg. He put his head against the wall and said he couldn't remember who gave him the story. Only the taste of the coffee he was holding when he heard it. I believe him because I have my own tastes I can't place to faces anymore. Cinnamon gum? I don't chew. A brand of soap my hands don't use. I keep telling myself to talk about the way people are holding together because the hour is full of the other thing. There was a woman on the corner of Pine who set a pot on a camp stove and made soup from broth and noodles and carrots that still had a snap. She stood with a wooden spoon and offered ladles into mugs, no words, just her eyes and a nod, and a piece of cardboard with the word "hot" written on it like a blessing. A kid in a denim jacket built a little phone charging station with a car battery and a tangle of cords and helped strangers plug in their dead phones, even though none of the phones woke up to anything that could reach out. He said charging it felt like a hug. I said that made sense to me. An older man from the farm road north of town rolled a windmill out of a barn, one of those small ones used for livestock pumps, and he set it on a trailer and cranked it upright with a hand winch. He didn't say this will save us. He said, I never took it down. I like the sound. He turned the vanes, and they caught almost no wind, yet they moved like a person turning in sleep, and I felt my shoulders drop at that sound. There's an old hand pump behind the elementary school, capped years ago when the new system went in. If you have a wrench and patience, take the cap off, put clean rags over the mouth while you fix the handle, and work it slow. The first water will be brown. Let it run. Count to 100. I did this yesterday with a stranger whose name I lost and found and lost again in the space of a minute. We took turns on the handle until clear came, and we filled 5 jugs and left 2 stacked for whoever came next. I wrote "drink" on the concrete with chalk. When I came back this morning, the word was still there but backwards, as if I had written it from the other side of the window. I need to say what the silence feels like, because maybe you are measuring your own and thinking you're losing it. The silence isn't empty. It's crowded. It's the space in a song where you know the drum fill by heart and the fill doesn't arrive, so your body plays it anyway, and then you realize you're drumming in a room no one else is in. I hear trains that aren't there. I smell rain that didn't fall. I think about my brother in Albany and decide to say his name out loud, so he's more than a headache behind the eyes. Aaron. If you hear me, and the Hudson is still where it's supposed to be, put a note under the rock at the old boat launch like we did when we were kids. I'll go check when the roads align enough for me to get there and back without losing the station on the hill. If the road gives me a second Albany beside the first, I'll pick the one that smells like the river and hope for the best. I want to be plain about some rules while the words still line up. If you are tired to the point where you feel your bones humming, sleep in shifts. If there are two of you, trade the night in pieces and promise to wake the other if the street outside rearranges. Leave a note on your door for yourself that says where you are and what you intend, because sometimes the person you are after a loop is not the one who left the room. Write down the list of people you mean to check on and put a little square next to each, not because we're keeping score, but because your brain will hide your own promises from you when it's scared. Eat. If you can't eat, drink, and if you can't drink, put a pinch of salt on your tongue and hold it there and then sip. Put on shoes even if you think you won't leave the house. Keep a flashlight by the door and one by your bed even if the light works, because the light is a liar today. If you have a radio that runs on batteries, keep it near and sweep the dial slowly. If you hear me and the voice sounds like it's underwater, stay with it. Count to 30, and the water will sometimes thin. There was a paper on my front seat when I left the station to fetch the insulin. The top line read, "Martial law declared nationwide," but the date under it was from 6 months ago, and the paper was a mock-up I recognized from the local community college's journalism class. I know the professor. I tried to call him in the spring when they were training the kids on the new studio mics we donated. The number went to a woman who said she was me and asked who I was. I hung up because my mouth turned cold, and I didn't like the idea of teaching myself to talk to myself through a stranger's phone. If the military did anything, I haven't seen it here. I saw a convoy yesterday, but it was all the same truck 5 times, with the same dent in the second door, each at a different distance from the stop sign. I stood on the corner and prayed I wouldn't have to choose which one to wave at. They did not move. The dust under their tires didn't know which way to lie down. A helicopter came low at dusk, or 5 versions of the same helicopter stacked like cards, rotors lagging, then catching, then lagging again. I ducked even though I knew the downdraft wouldn't reach me. I ducked because my body's old rules haven't caught up to the new ones. I had a friend in high school who loved astronomy. She'd pull me to the football field after late practices and make me look up while she talked about planets. She said once that the stars are not where you see them. You see the old version of them because their light took time to find you. She smiled and told me we're always living in a little museum of the past. I think about that tonight and feel sick because we turned the museum inside out. The past and the present are sitting on the same bleacher and pretending they don't know each other, and sometimes they look up at the same time and catch each other's eyes, and that's when the scoreboard flickers and the street jumps and my hands won't open for a second. I am not brave. I'm a man with a key to a small station, a generator, 3 jugs of diesel, and the bad habit of talking to empty rooms. But I can do this part. I can tell you what I see and what I'm learning while my head argues with itself. I can tell you to keep matches dry and to build a little kit by your bed with socks, a hat, a knife you respect, a small radio, a bottle of water, a granola bar you won't eat unless you tell yourself you're eating it because your brain needs it, not because your mouth is bored. I can tell you to make a box for the things you don't want to forget. Photos, letters, a map that won't blink, the necklace your grandfather wore, and to put that box where it can stare at you when you're thinking about walking into town without a plan. If you have someone who is slipping into the loops in a hard way, if they wake and think it's yesterday and yesterday hurts them, hold their hand and give them a simple job. Count the spoons, stack the cans, watch the door while I sleep. When you do that, the hum in the air lowers a notch. I feel it here, inside the cinder block. I walked by the school and found the flag halfway up the pole. It wasn't stuck. It was holding there like somebody had asked it to wait. The rope burned my hand when I tried to pull it down, not from heat, more like a sting from a word you didn't mean to say out loud. I left it mid-pole. In the cafeteria, the chairs were upside down on the tables, like the night custodian had just finished and gone outside for air. There were crayon drawings on the wall, and one showed our town with a giant clock above it. The hands on the clock were the wrong shape, too long, bent at the ends like willow branches. The kid had written, "Time Friend," next to it, or "Time Fiend." I can't tell which. I put my palm on that word and felt the paper ripple like shallow water. I stepped back, and the ripple stopped. I took the paper down and tucked it in my jacket because I don't know why. Only that the kid who made it deserves to have someone say, "I saw what you saw." I keep seeing the man in the brown coat by the lamppost. He is there even when the lamppost chooses a new corner. I do not go close because I do not want to know what his face is doing. If you see him, walk on the other side of the street. If he raises a hand, do not answer back with yours. If he speaks your name, remember that the street can say your name now, and the cars and the door of your old dentist can say your name, and that doesn't mean you owe them anything. If he follows, turn a corner you have already turned today and make the same wrong turn twice. He won't like that. I don't have proof. I have a feeling in my teeth that hums when I think of it, and my teeth have been right about storms often enough. There is a way to test your day that I learned by accident. Put a ring on your finger that is a little too loose. A ring, a rubber band, a twist tie. In the morning, when you decide it's morning, slide it up to the first knuckle. Say out loud where it sits. Middle of the finger. Past the knuckle. Check it again when you eat. Check again when you try to sleep. If it moved back to where it was without your skin telling you it slid, your day is not a full day yet. Don't use that to panic. Use it to be gentle with yourself. Your brain is going to call you a liar for forgetting a door you swear was blue. You need a small thing that tells you the truth, even when the clocks are playing games. I used a rubber band yesterday. I found it in a drawer that decided to be the junk drawer, even though the junk drawer used to live on the other side of the room. It worked until it didn't. And when it didn't, I laughed in that dry way that scares a dog. And then I felt better, because it meant I could still hear what my own laugh sounded like. I will try to leave this transmitter for an hour after I finish this stretch and see if the river sits where the map insists. I will put a note on the studio door that says where I went and when I intend to return, and if I come back to a different door with my note on it, I will read my own handwriting and believe it, even if the wall it sits on is a stranger. If you need a place to leave messages for each other, the wall of the post office is brick and holds chalk well. Write your first name, your route, the street you woke on, and the street you're hunting for. Draw 1 square if you found it, 2 if you didn't and you're still looking. 3 if you tried and turned back because the air tasted wrong and you trusted yourself. Nobody will think less of you for 3 squares. 3 squares means you wanted to live more than you wanted to be. Right. I keep thinking about sleep. Not what it is now, but what it was. That soft drop into the dark where dreams pretend to be movies and your body repairs the places you frayed. I haven't had it. When I close my eyes, I see a hallway that leads to a door that opens to the first hallway, and I walk it again and again until my knees ache and my throat buzzes from holding on to a name that doesn't want to stay. I open my eyes, and the room is the same room, only the desk is a foot to the left, and I pretend it was always there, and get out of bed like I meant to. If this is happening to you, I am with you. Sit up. Put your feet on the floor. Put your hands on your knees. Say your name and the month and the town out loud, and if the month answers with a different name, pick the one that scares you less and use it for the day. The maps will not punish you for that. I said at the start that the hum sits under everything. There are moments where it lifts. When the pump at the school hit clear water, the hum raised like a curtain, and the air tasted new. When the woman on Pine handed a mug of soup to a man who had blood on his shirt and didn't ask where it came from, the hum took one step back. When the kid with the car battery tied a knot better than the one I would have tied, the hum got shy and hid behind a building for a breath. That matters. It means we can push it a little with the boring things we do for each other. Keep doing the boring things. They are ballast. They keep the floor under your feet when the grocery store takes 2 steps to the right. It might be 9:10 now. The second hand made it past the 6 without falling back, and I want to clap for it like a parent seeing a first step. The sky outside the studio window is the same gray-pink bruise as earlier. And somewhere beyond town, a dog barked one time, and then forgot what barking is for. I will sign off for a short stretch to walk the ridge and check the diesel in the shed, and look at the tower leg, and talk to the metal like it can hear me. If you stay with the dial, listen for me on 104.3 FM when the tower wants to be generous. If you lose me, try AM 670. The old transmitter is stubborn, and stubborn is a kind of grace. If you pick up another voice talking about our town but saying different street names, be kind to both of us and write them down, because maybe we can trade maps across the seam. If you find a way to sleep without falling through the same minute, leave a note on the post office wall about how you did it. If you find my brother's name under the rock by the boat launch, leave me a square with your initials so I know who held his paper in their hands. I am going to keep saying this part because I need to hear it too. We are not alone, as long as a mouth can form a word and another ear can decide to keep it. When you feel the tilt coming on, when the street repositions and your breath forgets to finish, stop and put your palm against something that is still itself. Brick is good. The trunk of the maple by the courthouse is good. The cool side of a canned bean is good. Say what it is. Brick, maple, bean. Then say what you are. Person, hungry, tired. You will not fix the sky, but for a second, the ground will stop squirming. That second is enough to take one more step, and one more after that. And that is how we outlast things that think they can make us into an echo. I will be back after I count the cans and measure the fuel and check the rope on the guy wire. Keep your shoes near the door. Put your name on your wall. Eat something with salt. If the man in the brown coat is at your corner, cross. If he is at both corners, wait. He does not like it when you wait. Keep your radio on even if it tells you lies for a while. The truth and the lie use the same hallway to get in, and sometimes the truth is just behind. catching its breath. This is Silas Crane on 104.3 FM, the station on the hill that has not moved yet, in the town that wants to, but hasn't figured out how to do it while we watch. If you can hear my voice, you are awake enough to make water safe and put heat in a pot and write your name in chalk. I'm with you. I'll step away, and then I'll step back. If the clock loses me, trust your ring. If the street loses you, trust your note. I'll talk soon. It's back. The hum. Louder this time, like it's pressing against the glass from the outside. I stepped out after I signed off, and the air felt heavy, like walking through warm water. The ridge above the station was there when I left, but halfway up, it wasn't. Not gone, just turned into a slope I didn't know. I could still see the tower legs, but the ground between me and them had stretched, like a hallway in a bad dream. The diesel shed was closer, but the tower was farther. I filled the can anyway. I don't trust the distance not to change its mind. When I walked back down, the street in front of the station had rotated. I don't mean I got lost. I mean the whole street had turned in a circle, so the buildings faced different directions. The diner sign was staring at the hill now, and the bank faced the school. The asphalt was still warm from the sun that wasn't supposed to be there, and my shadow bent wrong across it. I stood still for maybe a minute, but it could have been an hour. I didn't want to move because I was afraid if I took one step, I'd take the wrong one and land in a day I didn't recognize. I can't tell if this is getting worse or if I'm just noticing it more. That's the trap. Your brain wants to call it paranoia, but then you remember that paranoia is just fear without proof, and I've got proof in every crack of this town. The post office wall has more chalk on it now. Someone drew a map that doesn't match mine. Their version of Main Street curves like a river. They marked a square where they think the high school is. It's 3 blocks north of where I've seen it my whole life. The scary part is, when I closed my eyes and tried to picture the school, I couldn't remember if the front doors faced east or west. I used to know that without thinking. I checked the cans in the back room. 3 missing. That's fine. That's what they're there for. Someone left a note on the desk that just said water's moving. I don't know if they mean the river or the pipes. If it's the river, that's bad. If it shifts too far, we lose the one thing that still holds some kind of steady. If it's the pipes, then maybe there's still pressure somewhere, and that's worth finding out. I'll walk to the treatment plant tomorrow if the road lets me. There's another thing. The man in the brown coat was standing at the corner of Oak and Pine when I got back. That's nowhere near here. I wasn't looking for him. He was just there. Same stillness, same tilt of the head, like he was listening for something under the sound of the world. The lamppost he was leaning on had no light. It looked like it hadn't had a bulb in years. I crossed to the other side, but when I glanced back, the lamppost was gone, and so was he. I've been thinking about sleep again. I don't think I've slept in 2 days. Not real sleep. Just these short blackouts where my head drops forward and I wake up thinking I'm somewhere else. Sometimes I wake up with my hands in a different position. Sometimes my shoes are tied tighter. Once, the rubber band I've been using to track the loops was gone, and I found it on the mixer. I don't remember putting it there. That means one of 2 things. Either I'm moving without knowing it, or something else is. I don't know which is worse. The ridge wasn't the only thing that shifted. The sky's wrong. It's a shade darker now, but the sun hasn't moved. The light just feels tired, like it's straining to reach us. There's a faint flicker in it, not enough to notice unless you stare. and you shouldn't stare. I made that mistake. I stared for maybe 5 seconds, and the horizon shimmered like heat waves off asphalt. But it's not hot. My breath is fogging again. I passed a house on Willow. Thought it was the insulin man's place. The door was open. Inside, every clock was stuck at 3:17. Wall clocks, microwaves, watches, every single one. Some of them had the second hand twitching in place. The air smelled like burnt plastic. There were footprints in the dust on the floor, but only leading in, not out. I called out, but nothing answered. I didn't take anything. I just backed out and shut the door, though I don't know if shutting doors means anything here anymore. This hum, God, it's getting under my skin. It's like standing too close to a bass speaker that's turned low. You don't hear it so much as you feel it, in your ribs, in your teeth. I've tried putting on music to drown it out. Doesn't work. Every song, no matter the band, no matter the station, slows down for just a second in the middle, like the record caught on something. It always picks back up in the same place, but you know it's been touched. You can feel it. I think the loops are getting selective. It's not always the whole day. Sometimes it's just a moment, stretched and flipped back, and then the rest of the world carries on like nothing happened. I was halfway down Broad Street when I passed the same red truck twice, parked in the same spot, same dent in the bumper, same half-empty coffee cup on the dash. The first time I thought maybe it was déjà vu. The second time, I stopped walking. I didn't pass it a third time. But now I wonder if I avoided it, or if it avoided me. There's something else I need to tell you. The tower. It hummed too. Not from the wind, not from the generator, from inside the metal itself. I put my ear to it and felt this low vibration, like it was holding in words it didn't want to say yet. I stepped back and looked up, and for a second, the top platform looked farther away than it should. Not higher, just farther, like it wasn't connected to the bottom anymore. If you're still listening, keep doing the small things. Write your name. Keep water close. Don't follow the streets when they lead you somewhere you don't recognize. And if the light changes without the sun moving, don't look at it too long. I'll keep talking. As long as the tower stands, as long as the fuel lasts, as long as the road back here doesn't fold in on itself, I'll keep talking. You stay awake, stay real. Don't get caught in the same moment twice. This is Silas Crane, 104.3 FM. I'll be here, for now. The river smells wrong tonight. I walked down to the boat launch after I filled the cans, and the path that should be a straight line had 2 gentle bends, and then a sudden drop like a missing step. I kept my hand on the guardrail because my brain didn't trust the ground. The old rock Aaron and I used for notes when we were kids was there and not there. The top had a new crack that looked like a mouth. I lifted it anyway, and there was a folded receipt under it from a gas station that closed in 2019. The receipt had my brother's name written in pencil and then smeared, as if someone tried to erase it and change their mind. I said his name out loud, and the water made a sound like it swallowed. The current didn't look like a current. The surface moved in square pieces, not flowing but trading places. You could point to one square and watch it slide left while the one beside it slid right. A dead leaf crossed the boundary and paused, as if asking permission. I crouched and dipped a jar and the jar filled, but the water inside had no weight in my hand until I looked away. When I looked back, the jar pulled my wrist down like it had remembered gravity. I set it on the asphalt and watched a bubble hang in the middle like it couldn't decide which way was up. I put the jar in my pack because I want to see if the bubble sleeps when I do. On the way back, I counted porch lights that burned with no house behind them. It took me 3 tries to understand it. A pole, a bulb, a halo, and then field. No siding, no steps, just the light hanging over the place where a family should be. The grass was shorter under some, like the memory of a lawn still did its work, even when the boards forgot how to stand together. I didn't call out. I kept to the sidewalk that felt most like concrete. A mailbox opened as I passed, and a letter slid out by itself and fell face up. The stamp was a flag from the year they changed the colors by 1 shade. The address line said, "To whoever wakes." I left it because I am afraid to take any word that wasn't meant to be mine. It would be easier to talk about the mechanics of things than the people inside them. But I told myself I would tell you what the air is doing to people's eyes. I saw a father carry his son across a median because the boy's legs had decided the ground under the left foot was tomorrow, and the ground under the right was yesterday. The boy laughed one of those scared laughs that ends in a hiccup. The man did not speak. He set the boy on the trunk of a car and tied the laces, slow, like the knot itself could be a bridge. A woman on the corner of Grant had lined up 11 flashlights and clicked them on one by one, and then off one by one, and then back on, like a code, like she was asking someone above the rooftops to line up their lights in return. When I asked her if she needed batteries, she stared at me as if it took a full minute to bring my face into the shape of a question. Then she nodded and held up 3 fingers. I gave her 4, and she tried to hand one back, and I told her to keep the extra, because a 4th thing in your pocket is a kind of hope. I keep fishing for theory because my brain wants a hook to hang on. The retired controller's charts are spread on the desk, and I have a marker circling the bits he touched. He wrote a time in the margin that doesn't match any clock. 1361. He put a box around it and then drew a line to the word seam. I think about storm systems that stall, about a jet stream that kinks and holds a season in place where it shouldn't be. I think about the Schenectady power station that hums the river into the grid, and how a thing like this could grab a phase and refuse to let it drift. I had a call once from a ham operator out near Utica after an aurora. He swore certain frequencies traveled farther for an hour, like the sky had become glass, not air. I'm not saying lights in the north did this. I'm saying there are nights when the world acts like a body that can get tired and make mistakes. If a body can misfire, a planet can too. But a planet's mistake is bigger and dumber and hard to forgive. I want to say a plain thing to the people who like plain. The supermarkets will feel safe because the aisles line up and the cans are labeled and the floor tells you where to walk. Don't let the lights fool you. Take what you need, but do not trust the freezers to keep meat good, because cold that doesn't flow is a picture, not a temperature. If there is a butcher's saw, clean it and hang it dry. If there is salt, take some, because salt is a lock on a door that keeps rot out for a while. If you find yeast, share it with a neighbor, because bread feels like civilization in your hands when the rest of the town wants to be fog. If you see a back room with a mop sink, fill a jug even if the water burps. Filter it the second you get home, and if the water in the jug looks like it wants to turn back into the sink, shake it and say, "Not today." I know that sounds like superstition, but sometimes your mouth needs to boss the day a little so your hands will move. I checked the old AM transmitter because sometimes the low band creeps into spaces FM can't reach. The cabinet door would not stay closed unless I put the brick from the threshold in front of it. The the tubes inside glowed like embers, and then dimmed like coals when you think a fire is going out, and then brightened again. When I flipped the toggle, the static that came back had a pulse in it, and for a second, I thought it was my own blood. It wasn't. The pattern was too regular, and then too not. Sets of 5, then 2, then 5 again, then a long breath, then sets of 4. I wrote it down, and then lost the paper, and then found it folded into my pocket with a piece of broken chalk. I'm going to leave the pattern on the wall at the post office with the note, "Do you hear this too?" and a square that I will fill in when someone tells me they do. If you copy it, keep the spacing, not just the numbers. Spacing matters right now. There's talk and whispers, not because anyone told us to be quiet, but because the air feels like a library with a mean librarian. Some say the interstate overpass outside town has 2 shadows in the morning and 1 at night. Some say the high-tension lines in the cut east of the fairgrounds whistle the notes of a hymn nobody wants to sing. A man I trust, who used to fix the clock at City Hall, set a pocket watch on the street and took 10 steps backward, and said the watch ran forward while he moved, then lost 20 seconds when he stopped. He tried again, and the watch gained time when he walked east, and lost time when he walked west, and did both at once when he turned a slow circle. He looked sick when he told me, like his stomach had decided nothing he ate would be real again. I told him to eat anyway. Hunger makes liars out of thoughts. I am thinking about rules of thumb because perfect rules are brittle, and today is not a good day for brittle. If a street looks longer than your legs can explain, do not walk it hungry. If a door looks like it wants to slam even with no wind, wedge it or choose a different door. If you see the same dog twice in one block, do not call it by name the second time. If you find yourself on a staircase that is shorter than your memory of it, count your steps and say your name every 3rd step until you reach a landing. If you have a map in your head, draw it with the dumbest pen you can find because dumb ink argues less than smart apps. If the sky flickers, look at the ground and blink 3 times and name one thing you can touch. Brick, maple, bean. It still works. I tested it on the curb, and my knees remembered how to be knees. I tried the clinic again, not for supplies this time, but for a chart with names. On the bulletin board was a community flyer for a blood drive that never happened. The date erased itself while I stared at it. The space where the date lived was blank white, and then gray, and then the pin fell out, and the paper slid down the cork like it had been relieved of a duty it never wanted. In the side room with the scale, a cuff sat like a patient, and the cuff's hose made a neat S across the counter and then a messy S without me touching it. I said out loud that I was looking for a list of the insulin patients, and a stack of manila folders vibrated once and stopped. I am not special. I am a mouth in a room, and sometimes the room moves its furniture to make you feel like you were heard. I left a note that said, "The fridge downstairs is cool enough to store a day's worth," an underlined day because I don't think we own weeks anymore. I stopped by the church because the tower bell has always steadied me. The bell did not ring when I pulled the rope. It rang when I let go. Once, a single clean note, and it sounded like the middle of winter, when your breath turns to snow, and your chest hurts in a holy way. The pews were turned slightly, a few degrees off from the altar, like the room remembered being used by a different congregation that liked a different view. Candles on the side rail burned and didn't burn. Flames that bent and then paused, like a photograph. Only the heat was real, and I could feel it on my skin. I didn't pray, because the words I know for prayer got slippery, and I didn't want to bring a slippery thing into a place meant for holding. I sat. I let the bench's old varnish teach my spine blue-collar posture. When I left, a pamphlet by the door had a new crease down the middle that looked like a river. I keep waiting for a voice from the state police, a helicopter with that particular blade sound that says, "Help is attached to a harness," and a shout. I haven't heard it. The one I saw at dusk wore the shape of a helicopter, but not the intent. The traffic sign on the way into town that usually flashes construction ahead froze on the word ahead, and then changed to slow, and then to nothing. I tripped its sensor by waving my arms, and it woke to numbers that did not belong to speed, just a countdown that began at 98 and ended at 98. I stood there too long, and the sign adjusted itself to face me more directly, and I took 3 steps back, because you should not let a thing like that think it is your friend. I am tired in a way that sits in my bones, not my eyelids. I keep telling myself to drink water, and I keep forgetting. I poured a cup and found a moth on the surface that wasn't there when I started. A moth with wings, like a fingerprint. I lifted it with the corner of an index card, and the moth flew without dripping once, and then landed on the dial of the transmitter as if it wanted to hear a song. I changed the frequency to see if it preferred one over another, and it stayed where it was, but turned its body a fraction, like a compass needle that had money on the outcome. I gave it a name I won't repeat, because I don't want to name small things while big things are fighting for my mouth. You may be alone in your kitchen. You may be in a car that you haven't started for 2 days. You may be in a basement, because the upstairs has a light that won't turn off. And that feels like a challenge. You're not in the mood to lose. You are not the only person who feels like your skin is one size too small for the day. Put a pot on. Watch water behave. If it behaves wrong, take a breath and behave right anyway. Chop an onion carefully. If you cry, blame the onion and not the world for a minute. Heat a pan and listen for the small change in sound when oil is hot. That sound is still true. Salt still loves tomatoes. Bread still toasts. The first bite of something warm still sends a message to your hands that says, "You can unclench now." Your hands will fight you for a second, and then they will listen. I'm going to say the frequency again, because saying it keeps the floor from sliding. 104.3 FM. If I disappear for a loop, try AM 670. If both go quiet, try humming the pattern of the tower light to yourself. 1 long, 2 short, 1 long. Until your feelings line up with the shape of the day, enough that you can turn a knob without crying. If you have batteries, store them in a sock so they don't roll away when the dresser decides. The wall it loves is a different wall. If you have a hand crank radio, crank it while telling yourself a story you've told before. The one about the day the car broke down, and you walked home under a sky that had the decency to choose a color and stay with it. You will feel silly. You will also feel your shoulder. Feeling your shoulder is a victory when feeling the horizon is too much. I saw the brown coat again, not on a corner this time, but reflected in the glass of the barber shop where the mirrors face each other and make that tunnel of forever. In the tunnel, he was always exactly 3 panes away, never closer, never further. I lifted a chair and moved it an inch, and the distance stayed the same. I said out loud that I knew he was watching, and that I would not turn around, and the tunnel got 1 pane deeper, as if it respected boundaries. When I left, I used the back door and walked along the alley that used to be narrow and was wide enough today for a truck and a dream to pass each other without touching. I came out by the bakery that stopped baking on Tuesday and smelled sugar anyway. The scent made my knees weak in a kind way. A memory that keeps its sweetness is a safe thing to put in your pocket when the streets trade places. I should explain the weather, because people write it on their walls when they have nothing else steady to write. It is too cool for August. The air carries a metal taste that I only get in early November when the first real frost hits the riverbank. The wind comes from directions my face doesn't expect, and then none at all. Just that pressure, the hum pressing. Clouds drift and then lock. When they lock, birds stop mid-arc. The birds do not fall. They hold. I saw a hawk hold over the courthouse, and while it held, its shadow on the brick flickered the way fluorescent lights do when the ballast is failing. When the hawk moved again, the shadow moved without the flicker. I don't know what to do with that, except to say it into the room. So you know I'm not editing the ugly parts out. There's a man named Dale from the bait shop who leaves minnows in a tub out back every summer because fishermen forget things. Dale's tub is still there, and the minnows still move, but they do not make ripples when they turn. You can see them, and you can see the light on their sides, and the surface sits like glass in a frame. I put my finger in, and the water felt wet, and the ripple that should have radiated from my knuckle did not form until I said the word ripple, and then it did, late and beautiful. I stood there and said ripple 3 more times, and the tub obeyed me with the patience of a grandparent. That's the kind of power I don't want. The kind that makes you think you are in charge of something that is being kind to you on purpose, so you'll stay. I will not lie and say I am not scared. My hands shake in a small way when I tie knots. My teeth feel loose when the hum gets loud. I walk with care past the places where the street wants to move under me. I curse more than I should when a drawer puts itself on the wrong side of the room. But I am stubborn. Stubborn is the same engine that kept me doing birthdays on air for a decade without yawning into the microphone. Stubborn is the thing that makes a town like ours shovel each other's driveways before the plow comes. Stubborn will keep the tower fed until the diesel is gone, and then I'll burn furniture like a sad campfire for the old AM. And then I'll take a handheld and stand on the roof and scream my frequency into the wind if I have to. If you are alone, write your name large on something and tape it to your front door. If you are not alone, write all your names. If the paper is gone when you wake, write it again. If someone else wrote their name under yours without asking, leave it. That means they needed to see letters hold a shape that their head couldn't form in the moment. If you have a neighbor, pick one small thing to do for them every day that has nothing to do with big survival. Sweep their stoop. Put a flower in a jar on their steps, even if the flower came from the median by the highway, where flowers are mean and wonderful. Make a joke that only makes sense to people on your block. Laugh at your own joke if nobody else is there. Humor is a plank over a drop. I'm going to sit by the window for a few minutes and watch the way the light chooses the bricks on the opposite building. If the bricks start trading places, I'll look at the floor and say brick and maple and bean until my breath remembers how to count. I will be here. You be there. Drink water. Salt your food. Trust the dumb pen. If the brown coat stands inside the mirror, do not give him your back. If the water moves in squares, scoop a square and make it yours for the day. If the clock says 1361, turn the paper over and write your own time. If you hear my voice stutter, hold the dial and wait for it to catch. Sometimes the truth is behind, catching its breath, and it will arrive if you give it half a chance. This is Silas Crane on 104.3 FM, The station on the hill that still knows where the hill is, even when the town tries out a new angle. I'm not going anywhere that the road can stop me from returning to. If you stop hearing me, count to 98 and start over. I'll find you between numbers. Keep the kettle warm. Keep your shoes ready. Keep your name where you can see it. I am with you in the ways that matter and in the ways that don't. I am only a voice, and that is sometimes enough. It's quiet in here, but not the kind of quiet that lets you rest. It's the kind that makes you check the locks twice, even though you know the locks don't mean much anymore. I've been sitting by the front window of the station for the last hour. At least it feels like an hour. The street outside hasn't changed in the obvious ways. The buildings are still standing. The road still runs straight past the diner. But every time I glance away and look back, one of the windows across the street has its curtain drawn a little more, or a little less. Sometimes the curtains are gone altogether. Sometimes they're inside out. That wouldn't matter if I didn't know for sure that building's been empty for years. I know the owner. He moved to Florida in 2017. I went to his going-away party. He gave me his old record player. There's no one in there to touch those curtains. The hum's softer now, not gone, just buried under something else. A faint, distant thump. Not a car door, not a hammer. It's too steady for that. Every 3, maybe 4 seconds. A hollow, low beat, like something huge walking far away. I don't like that I can feel it in my chest. I stepped out into the street to see if it was coming from one direction, but it doesn't have a direction. No matter which way I turn, it's the same distance away. That makes it worse. I walked 2 blocks toward the river. The air there was warmer, but the warmth came in pulses, like a breath, but not mine. You could feel it on your skin, and every time it passed, the hairs on my arms stood up. The water was still shifting in those square patches. I counted 11 tonight. One of them was larger than the rest, and in the middle of it was something floating, something that looked like a chair. Not a boat, not debris. A chair. Wooden. Upright. Perfectly balanced. I leaned on the railing, and I swear, no, I know, that chair turned a quarter rotation all at once. Not like it was pushed by current, like it wanted to face me. I stepped back. On the walk back, I passed a stoplight. No power anywhere in town, but the light was on. All 3 colors at once. I waited, thinking maybe it would flicker out or settle on one, but it stayed like that, red, yellow, green, until I crossed under it. Then it went dark, as if it had only been waiting for me to pass. There's been talk, even before the signal died on the emergency station, about the cities themselves shifting. I keep telling myself, that's just a way of describing what's happening here. But I'm not sure. The diner's sign across from the station, it used to say Maggie's. Now without anyone touching it, the G is gone. Not broken, not fallen, just gone. My eyes. I stared at it for too long, and when I finally turned to unlock the door, the M had changed too, like the sign couldn't agree on its own name. Inside, the generator's fuel gauge has been stuck at half all night. I've been running it for hours, so that's impossible. Either it's lying, or the diesel's stuck in some moment that never drains. I'd be glad for that if I could trust it, but I can't. I've seen too much else behave this way. I keep going over the rules I've been making. Simple ones. Things I tell myself so I don't get caught in a loop without realizing it. If the road looks longer than you remember, stop. If you see the same person twice in under a minute, change direction. Don't look at the horizon for more than 5 seconds. Don't read the same sentence twice. That last one. I broke it tonight. I found a note in my own handwriting on the desk. Stay in the light. 4 words. I read it, and before I knew it, I'd read it again. On the second read, it said, stay out of the light. I turned it face down. I'm not going to look again. If you're listening, I hope you're writing your own rules. Rules are anchors. Doesn't matter if they're perfect. They just need to be yours. The brown coat man hasn't shown up tonight, but I've been catching glimpses of something else. Not a person. A shape. Low to the ground, pale, like a dog without a head, moving at the corner of my sight. When I turn my head, it's gone. I tell myself I imagined it, but earlier I saw paw prints in the dust outside the back door. The prints had no toes, just smooth ovals, one after another, leading toward the alley. I'm going to keep the mic open for a while, even if I don't talk much. That way, if something happens, if the generator stutters, if the tower groans, you might hear it too. Don't trust the stillness tonight. Whatever's out there, it's learning how to move without being seen. 104.3 FM, Ashford, New York. This is Silas Crane, still here, for now. The air feels thicker tonight, like walking through the breath of something asleep. If it's asleep, I don't want to be here when it wakes. I walked out before sunset, if you can call it sunset when the sky barely changes, to check the post office wall. The chalk marks are spreading. Some of them aren't mine. Some of them aren't anyone's I know. I touched a few letters, and the dust came off on my fingers, but the shapes stayed behind, like the wall wasn't willing to let them go. There was a square with no name beside it. Just a mark, perfectly even. A stranger's way of saying, I was here, without giving anything else away. On Main Street, I saw the first real split. I don't mean a shift where something moves a block over. I mean 2 versions of the same building at once. Maggie's Diner, or whatever name the sign's holding on to, was doubled. One version solid, the other faint, like heat haze. The faint one was cleaner, newer. A car was parked outside it, bright red, polished. And then it blinked out. The ghost diner stayed for a few seconds longer before fading, leaving the older, dirt-streaked one in place. I didn't go inside. Couldn't. I felt like if I crossed that threshold, I might step into the wrong version and not be able to get back. The streets are folding now, not metaphorically. I took a right on Willow and found myself staring down a road that bent sharply upward, like a ramp curling into the air. At the top, the buildings on both sides leaned inward until they touched. I thought about walking under them, but my stomach told me no. I turned back, and the way behind me was different. The houses were closer together. The street sign had no name. By the time I found my way back to the station, it was darker than it should have been. The tower light was blinking slower, like it was losing interest in keeping pace. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and smelled diesel, fresh diesel, even though I haven't refilled the generator. The gauge still says half, still impossible. The hum's been replaced by something worse, a faint ticking, like a clock with no hands. It's not in the walls, it's in the air. When I move, it moves with me, perfectly in sync, as if it's inside my head. But when I stop, it keeps going for a few beats before it remembers to match me again. I found another note on the desk, not in my handwriting. Don't look behind you after the 3rd chime. I don't know what that means, and I don't want to. I keep thinking about that man in the brown coat. Not seeing him tonight doesn't feel like safety. It feels like absence with weight, the kind that makes your skin want to crawl off your bones. Sometimes I think I hear a faint shuffle outside the door, but when I check, nothing's there. Earlier, while tuning through the bands, I hit on a burst of speech. One sentence, repeated twice before vanishing. "They're not loops anymore." That was it. No voice ID, no call sign, nothing. Just that. If they're not loops anymore, then what are they? I'll keep talking as long as the fuel, whatever it's really doing, lasts. And if you're hearing this, write your rules, follow them, and don't trust the things that look almost right. Almost is what gets you lost. 104.3 FM. Ashford. Silas Crane, still on the hill. I saw a man split in two tonight. Not in the bloody way your mind might picture. This was worse. I was walking back from the river, still chasing that note someone left about water moving, when I turned onto Broad and saw him under the street lamp. Just a guy in a gray hoodie, head down, hands in his pockets. I almost kept walking, but then the air around him wavered. For a second, there were two of him, one and a half step ahead of the other. Same clothes, same slouched shoulders, but the second one's head was turned toward me. The first kept walking like I wasn't there. The second just stared, his mouth moving in a way that didn't match the rhythm of his steps. And then they snapped back together, like two magnets pulled into place. He didn't even flinch, just kept walking. I thought about calling out, but what would I say? Which one of you is real? Back at the post office wall, more chalk marks. Two names I know, Rita and Dale, written twice, side by side, like someone traced over them in a hurry and missed. Rita's second version had her letters just slightly taller. Dale's was slanted, like it was written by his left hand instead of his right. The more I look at this town, the more I think it's not just moving. It's rehearsing. Like it's trying different versions of itself and keeping whichever one it likes best. The station feels different too. The back hallway is longer than it was yesterday. I counted steps, 23 from the control room to the supply closet. Now it's 32. The door to the closet has a dent in it I don't remember. When I opened it, the mop bucket was gone, but there were 3 metal chairs stacked in the corner, like they'd been there for years. And the ticking, it's louder, not fast, but steady. Every time it sounds, I feel it in my molars. I tried talking over it, but my voice fell into its rhythm. I had to stop, sit down and breathe before I started talking like myself again. I tuned through the frequencies a few minutes ago and caught another voice. Not live. It had that hollow echo of a recording. A woman whispering, "They remember what you do." Then static. I don't know if she meant the buildings or the people or whatever's making the air shift like this. I checked the generator before coming back on air. The gauge is still frozen at half, but the fuel cap was warm. Warmer than it should be. I unscrewed it, and there was no smell. No diesel, no fumes, just cold air. But the generator kept running. I don't know if that means I'm safe for a while, or if it means I'm already running on something I don't understand. And that scares me more than the man in the brown coat ever did. 104.3 FM. Ashford. Silas Crane. Still here, even if the version of me you're hearing isn't the first one. I saw Aaron tonight. Not my brother the way I remember him. He was younger. Hair shorter. No beard. standing by the edge of the parking lot where the grocery store used to be. At first, I thought it was just my head playing with old memories, but then he called my name. My name, clear and steady, in a voice I haven't heard in years. I stepped toward him, but the air between us felt thick, like walking into a wind that wasn't moving. I asked where he'd been. He smiled, but it wasn't all the way to his eyes. "Here," he said, the whole time. While I was trying to make sense of that, he flickered, like a bad channel on TV. 1 second my brother, the next a version of him I didn't recognize. Older, hollow cheeks, eyes rimmed red, like he hadn't slept in weeks. Same clothes, but worn and stained. That version didn't smile. He just whispered, "You need to leave before it finishes." I asked, "Before what finishes?" But he switched again, back to the younger one, cheerful, like nothing had happened. He told me I should come with him, that there's a place where the days don't touch each other. I didn't follow. My legs wouldn't move forward. Then, just as sudden, both versions of him lined up for a split second. 2 sets of eyes, same face, overlapping like double exposure. And then he was gone. Not walked away, just gone. When I got back to the post office wall, there was a new name. Aaron. Only it wasn't my handwriting, and it wasn't his either. The street back to the station was wrong. The houses leaned toward the road, closer than they've ever been, almost touching overhead. Their windows looked down like they were leaning in to hear me pass. My own reflection in the glass was a half-second behind my steps, the ticking inside the station's louder. I tried clapping to break the rhythm, but it just matched me. And after I stopped, it kept the pattern of my claps for 3 beats before going back to its own. The tower light outside is dimmer tonight. Each blink feels slower, like the whole thing's falling out of sync. I can't shake the feeling that whatever's happening to the streets is happening to the signal too. If you're hearing this, and you see someone you know, watch their eyes. If they shift, even once, don't follow them, no matter what they say. 104.3 FM, Ashford, Silas Crane. Still on the hill. Still me, for now. It started while I was talking. One moment I was looking at the mixer, my notes, the clock over the doorway. Then my chair rocked under me. Not like the floor moved, but like the air thickened on one side and pushed. I blinked, and the doorway wasn't where it should have been. It had slid a foot to the left. The wall was a smooth stretch of cinder block where the frame had been, and the new doorway had the same scuffed wood trim, the same peeling paint. But my jacket wasn't hanging there anymore. I kept speaking, because stopping felt like permission for the room to do more. The blinking light on the console slowed until it matched the beat of my heart. At least, I thought it did. Then it got ahead of me, and I had to match it. The control board itself was wrong. Faders I'd labeled with strips of tape, music, mic, monitor, were gone. No labels, no tape. The knobs were in different places. My hands went to adjust one, and for a second, it felt warm, like someone else had just been using it. In the glass between me and the production booth, my reflection wasn't moving in sync. A half beat behind, eyes fixed straight on me even when I looked down. I forced myself not to stare at it. The last time I did, I lost a whole hour, or maybe the hour lost me. The ticking sound is part of the station now, not in the air, not in the walls, in the equipment. I unplugged the monitor feed to kill it, but it just came back through the mic channel, soft but steady. When I tap the desk, it pauses, not stops. pauses, like it's listening. I reached for my coffee mug. It wasn't where I left it. It was 3 inches to the right and half empty. I don't remember drinking any of it. It was cold, but the handle was warm. I don't know how long I can stay in here if the station keeps changing around me, but I also know what's outside. And right now, the idea of walking into streets that might not end is worse. If the signal cuts mid-sentence, it's not because I've gone. It's because the station moved somewhere my voice can't reach. 104.3 FM, Ashford, Silas Crane. Holding on to the hill, even if the hill's starting to move. It happened about 15 minutes ago, if time's still working the way it's supposed to. I was mid-sentence, talking about the cold in the hall, when the feed in my headphones changed. My own voice came back at me, but not the words I'd just spoken. It was something I'd said 2 nights ago, about the man in the brown coat by the lamppost. Same tone, same pauses, exactly as I remember recording it. Only I never mentioned it on air that night. I cut it. I remember hitting stop, deleting that segment before it went live. And yet, there it was, playing like it had been part of the broadcast all along. I tried talking over it, but my voice doubled in the cans, me now, me then, overlapping, slipping in and out of sync until I couldn't tell which one was real. The levels on the board stayed flat, like nothing was feeding through. But the signal light on the transmitter was solid red, humming. I flipped the monitor off. The sound kept going. I unplugged the headphones, and I could still hear it, faint but clear, as if the station itself was bleeding old words into the air. The worst part? The old recording started answering me. I said, "I'm still here." And half a second later, the past me said, "Not for long." That was never in the original cut. I swear it. I glanced at the clock, stuck at 8:14, and in the corner of my eye, my reflection in the glass was speaking, but my mouth was closed. It was mouthing the same phrase, over and over. It remembers. I shut my eyes for a second, tried to breathe. When I opened them, the board looked normal again. The reflection had caught up, but the ticking didn't stop, and the room felt smaller, like the walls had taken one step closer. If you hear fragments of me out of order, don't trust them. Don't listen to them. They're not just recordings. They're bait. 104.3 FM, Ashford, Silas Crane, still live for now. It started as a whisper under the static. I was sweeping the dial between songs, half hoping for another real voice, half dreading it, when I caught something that made my stomach knot. It wasn't me this time. It wasn't playback. It was Aaron's voice. Clear, steady, calling my name. I froze. He said, "Come outside." Same tone he used when we were kids, when he'd find something in the woods and want me to see it before it got dark. The warmth in it almost pulled me out of the chair. Almost. Then, a second later, the voice shifted. Same sentence, same pitch, but not Aaron. This one was deeper, heavier, like someone else wearing his words. I can't explain it, but I felt it in my bones. It was the same thing that's been moving the streets. The same thing that's been changing faces. I said his name into the mic, half by instinct, and the signal answered in 3 voices at once. Aaron, Mrs. Tanner, Dale from the bait shop, all speaking over each other, layered perfectly in time, all saying the same thing. "You've been here before." It didn't sound like a question. The static thickened until it felt physical, like the air in the booth was packed with wool. I pulled my headphones off, but the voices kept going. Faint, tinny, like they were coming from the walls themselves. I went to the window to see if anyone was outside. The parking lot was empty, but every dark window across the street looked brighter than it should, as if something was standing behind the glass and waiting for me to notice. I sat back down. The mic light was still on, even though I'd switched it off. I'm not sure who's broadcasting right now, me or whatever's gotten inside the signal. If you hear someone you know calling you over the radio, don't answer back. And if you can, write down exactly what they said. Check it later. I've got a feeling the words won't be the same twice. 104.3 FM. Ashford. Silas Crane. Still here. Still mine. I tried leaving. I told myself it was just to walk a block, get clear of the walls, shake off the voices, but I think some part of me already knew I wouldn't make it far. The air outside was heavy, not hot, just full, like there was more of it than there should be. I headed east toward Pine, but halfway down the block I noticed the street light above me was the same one I'd passed leaving the station, same dent in the pole, same sticker half peeled near the base. I turned right at the next corner, then right again. The same pole, same dent. I tested it, walked faster, even jogged. Each time, no matter how many turns I took, I ended up back under that light. It was like the street was folding behind me and putting the same stretch down in front again. On the fourth pass, I stopped under the light to catch my breath. That's when I noticed the shadows. My shadow was there, but there were two more. Faint, just to either side of me. They moved when I did, but a split second behind, like they were hesitating. The hum returned, stronger than I've heard it in days. I felt it in my jaw, my wrists, deep in my chest. The shadows twitched once, in unison, and then froze. I didn't wait to see what came next. I bolted back toward where the station should have been. This time the street opened up, as if it had decided to let me through. But when I reached the front steps, the door was already open. I never leave it open. Inside, the air was warmer, like someone had been here a while. The chair at the board was turned slightly toward the window. My notes were shuffled into a stack I didn't make. On top, in handwriting that wasn't mine, was a single line. Next time, don't stop. The ticking in the booth is louder now, not faster, just closer. If you're listening and you've tried to leave somewhere but ended up in the same spot, don't push it. Not yet. Not until you're sure the street will let you. 104.3 FM. Ashford. Silas Crane. Still on the hill. For now. I saw myself before I opened the door. From the street, through the booth window, clear as anything, me, sitting at the board, leaning into the mic. My hands were on the faders, my head tilted just enough to make it obvious I was speaking. The tower light outside blinked in time with my breaths. For a second I thought maybe I'd blacked out and come back in without remembering. But the me in the booth was moving slower, like every motion had to pass through water. And there was no sound. The glass should have been vibrating with my voice. Instead, it was perfectly still. I stood there, on the sidewalk, watching my own mouth-shaped words I couldn't hear. Then the other me stopped, lifted his head, and looked directly at me through the glass. His lips didn't move after that, but I could still feel him speaking, inside my head, the way you remember someone's voice when you read their handwriting. He smiled, not a big grin, just a slow curve that didn't touch his eyes. Then he raised one hand from the fader and pointed at the chair across from him, the guest chair. the one I never use. I didn't go in right away. I walked around the block once, trying to think of something else. Anything else. The streets behaved this time. No folding, no looping. When I came back, the booth was empty. The chair was back in its place. But the guest chair had been pulled out and turned toward the board. I went inside. The air smelled faintly of diesel and something sweeter, almost like fruit gone just past ripe. My own coffee mug was in the middle of the desk instead of on the side, and it was full, steam curling off the top. I hadn't made coffee all day. The ticking was in the mug, not in the walls anymore, not in the air, inside the mug. It didn't echo. It was contained. I poured it into the sink. The sound stopped. I sat down, trying to convince myself I'd imagined it, and flipped through my notes. Mixed in with my handwriting were 3 pages I'd never written. My name was at the top of each one, and underneath were transcripts, things I'd said over the past few days. Not all of it, just pieces. But there were also lines I never spoke. They'll let you see the seam. You're not the first me to be here. You don't get to choose which version you are. The paper was warm to the touch. I pushed it aside and tried to focus on the board. The meters were moving like I was live, but I wasn't speaking. The mic was muted. And yet, if I leaned close to the monitors, I could hear faint breathing. Slow. Calm. Not mine. I scanned the bands, looking for a clean break in the noise. Every station I landed on had fragments of my own voice, layered over music, over static, over silence. One frequency, 101.9, was just me saying, "You missed it," over and over, never exactly the same tone twice. When I killed the power to the tuner, the phrase kept going, faint, as if the station had soaked it up and wasn't ready to let go. The windows outside the booth glass are dark now, but I keep catching a reflection that's not me. Just a shoulder and part of a face, like someone standing just out of sight. Each time I turn my head, the space is empty. But the reflection's still in the glass for a second before fading. I'm staying put tonight. I've decided that much. The streets aren't safe, and I can't trust whatever version of me I saw earlier not to be waiting out there. If you're hearing this, if you're hearing me, make sure it's me now, not me from some other day. If I say something you know I've never said before, write it down, but don't act on it. The version that gave you those words might not be the one still here tomorrow. 104.3 FM, Ashford, Silas Crane, keeping the light on, keeping watch for myself. I'm not sleeping tonight. I don't trust what I'll wake up to, if I wake up at all. I've wedged the station door shut with 2 folding chairs and a length of coax cable wrapped around the handle. It won't keep anything serious out, but maybe it'll slow down whatever version of me I saw earlier. I've stacked my supplies on the desk. Flashlight, the last can of peaches, my notes, the shortwave receiver, the little hand crank light I found in the clinic's back room. The booth feels smaller in the dark, not just because the lights are off. There's a presence in here when the tower light is the only thing blinking. Every time it flashes through the window, I see the edges of the room bend for just a second, as if the light's pushing them inward. The ticking hasn't stopped. It's softer now, but not farther away, like it's inside my head instead of in the room. I tried covering my ears. Doesn't help. I tried humming to drown it out, but the hum matched me again, just like before. Now I'm careful not to make any rhythm at all, just in case it's waiting for something to copy. At 1:43, if that means anything anymore, the power flickered. Not the generator, the room. The walls lit up for a fraction of a second, as if they'd been painted with a thin layer of light. I saw things that aren't here now. A tall metal cabinet in the corner, a red jacket hanging by the door, a row of empty coffee cups lined along the mixer. None of that's in this booth. None of that's ever been here. After that, I kept the flashlight on, sweeping it across the corners every so often. I caught movement once, something sliding out of view near the base of the transmitter rack, just the edge of a shadow, but it moved like it had intent. Around 2:15, I heard the station speaking without me. No mic light, no open channel, just my voice, faint through the monitor. It was describing things I hadn't seen yet. The hallway's longer now. There's water on the floor. The guest chair is gone. I turned and looked. Hallway normal length, floor dry, chair still there. But I've been checking every few minutes since, and each time, one of those things changes. The hallway's already stretched by a step. I keep staring at the floor, waiting for the water. At 3 o'clock, the chalkboard outside the studio door made a noise, just a faint scrape, like someone writing. When I checked, there was a new line. "Don't let the quiet in." It wasn't my handwriting. I erased it. A minute later, it came back, darker this time. I left it alone after that. The radio dial is stranger tonight. I can find myself on at least 4 frequencies, all delayed by different amounts. On 90.7, I'm about 2 hours behind. On 101.9, I'm a day late. On 107.4, I'm saying things I don't remember saying. Some of them are warnings, some of them are nonsense, strings of numbers, single words repeated until they stop sounding like words. On one, I just keep laughing, slow and empty. I can't listen to that one for more than a few seconds. Outside, the tower light has slowed almost to a stop. It's holding each blink longer than it should, like it's savoring the pause. The shadows of the support beams reach farther into the lot than they ought to. I've been pacing the booth just to stay awake. I'm writing rules as I go. Never follow a voice that uses your brother's tone. Don't trust reflections if they're slower than you. Erased words come back stronger. Don't fight them. If you hear yourself laughing, turn the dial. Don't stop walking when the street folds. My hands are shaking, not from cold. I think it's the pressure in the air. It's thicker tonight, like being under a blanket you can't lift. Every deep breath feels slow to leave my lungs. 4:12 now. The hallway is definitely longer. 3 extra steps since midnight. And there's a faint, wet shine on the floor near the back door. I haven't gone closer. I keep expecting to hear footsteps on the roof, but instead, it's like the roof breathes. A deep rise and fall, almost too slow to notice unless you stare at the ceiling tiles. I've decided I'll stay live until sunrise, or whatever passes for it now. If the signal starts speaking without me again, I'll write it down. If I go quiet, it's because something in here has decided it doesn't need me to talk anymore. If you're awake, keep your own list of rules, make them plain, make them yours, and if the quiet starts pressing at your windows, don't open them. The quiet isn't empty, it's full. 104.3 FM. Ashford. Silas Crane. Still here. Still mine. For now. I've been here long enough now that the hours don't feel separate anymore. The clock says it's 6:08 a.m., but the sky outside is the same bruised gray it was all night. No brighter, no softer. Just that same wrong shade, as if the day got stuck halfway between two decisions and decided to stay there. I've kept myself moving. Every 30 minutes or so, I stand up, walk the perimeter of the booth, check the hall, look out the front window, and count the steps to the back door. Each time I've done it since 4 a.m., that hallway has added a fraction of a step. I'm up to 37 now. It was 23 when I started keeping track. The change is so slight each time you almost convince yourself it's in your head, until you write it down and see the numbers climbing. The wet patch on the floor near the back door has spread. Not fast, but steady. I crouched down to look at it a little after 5 o'clock. The surface isn't rippling like a spill. It's perfectly still, like glass. My flashlight beam bent across it in a way I've never seen, as if the light was being pulled down instead of reflecting. I didn't touch it. Every instinct told me not to. The chalkboard outside the booth has a new message. Your shadow isn't yours. This time, it's written in my handwriting. I don't remember writing it. The chalk's still warm, like it was just used. When I checked the dial again, my voice was on more stations than before. I'm bleeding into at least 6 now. The 90.7 feed, the one that's about 2 hours behind, has started repeating a segment where I talk about the man in the brown coat. The strange part is, each repetition is slightly different. First time I say he never moves. Second time I say he follows me to the corner. Third time, I say he's inside the station. Fourth time, I'm not describing him at all. I'm describing myself standing outside the station window watching me speak. That one plays over and over. At some point during the night, the air outside changed. I opened the window to check the street, and the air was warmer than in here, heavy with a smell I can't place. Sweet, but with something sour underneath. It made my throat tighten. I shut the window fast. The guest chair is gone now. I didn't hear anyone move it. I didn't even see it leave. 1 minute it was across from me, the next it was just empty space. The carpet under it looks darker, like it's been pressed down for years, even though I've never had a guest sit there long enough to leave a mark. I found my coffee mug again, this time under the board. Full. Still steaming. I tipped it out, without smelling it first. Whatever's filling that mug isn't coffee. The ticking is quieter now, but it's closer. It's like standing next to a wall and hearing something tapping on the other side with its fingertip. Once every couple of seconds. Not impatient. Just there. I've been watching my reflection in the glass carefully. It's still in sync with me for now. But there's a tightness in the eyes that doesn't feel like mine, like it's waiting for me to blink wrong. I don't know if it's really morning out there, but I'm going to treat it like it is. That means water check, food check, notes updated, and another scan of the frequencies. If you're hearing me live right now, I want you to know I'm holding this place as long as I can. The hill feels like the only solid ground left, even if the station itself is starting to slide sideways in ways I can't measure. If the walls close in anymore, I'll move into the hallway, and if the hallway grows too long to see the other end, I'll come back here, sit down, and keep talking until the mic takes my voice away from me. 104.3 FM, Ashford, Silas Crane. One more day, one more version. Still me. At least, I think so. I've been treating the day like it's real, even though the light outside hasn't moved an inch. If I don't keep the hours in my head, I'll lose them. And if I lose them, I'm afraid the world will decide I don't need them anymore. 7 a.m. I started with the basics, checked the hallway length. 38 steps now. Another one added since I spoke to you last. I don't even hear the shift happen. It's just there the next time I walk it. The wet patch near the back door has grown wide enough that I have to step around it. Still perfectly still, still bending light. I'm starting to think it's not water at all. 7:45. The chalkboard message has changed again. Don't drink what's warm. Underneath it, the previous message, your shadow isn't yours, is gone. Not erased, just gone, like it was never written. The board's surface under it looks fresh, unworn, like a piece of time got patched over. 8:20. The street outside looks straighter. The small slope down toward the diner has leveled out. The buildings seem taller now, though maybe that's just me seeing them from a different angle. The windows on the second floor of the old hardware store are gone. Smooth wall where they should be. 9 a.m. Static on 101.9 is forming words again, but they're faint. I can make out my name, then other names. Rita, Dale, Mrs. Tanner, and then a list of streets in no order I recognize. I wrote them down. I don't know if they're here or somewhere else. 9:30. The guest chair is back. It's facing away from the board this time, toward the wall. The carpet mark under it is gone, like it never left. I haven't touched it. 10:15. The ticking stopped for about 2 minutes. That's when I heard something else. A slow scrape from the hallway, like someone dragging their feet. I looked, but it was empty. When I came back to the booth, the guest chair had turned halfway toward me. 11 o'clock. Another mug on the desk. Not mine this time. Heavy ceramic, dark green glaze. Inside was clear liquid, steaming. I poured it out in the sink. It left no residue, no smell. The mug is still warm. 12:05. Outside, the tower light is blinking out of rhythm. Long pause, 2 quick blinks, long pause. I think it's spelling something, but I don't know what. The shadow of the tower leg stretches almost to the diner now, which shouldn't be possible at this hour, if this hour is real. 1 o'clock. The floor near the back door is changing. The still surface is gone. Now it moves, but not like water, more like the surface of a mirror when you press your hand to the back of it. A ripple that lags and then catches up. 1:40. I caught my reflection smiling when I wasn't, just for a heartbeat. I stared it down until it matched me again. 2:15. The chalkboard reads, "Do not let the guest sit." I wiped it clean. It came back immediately, written smaller. 3 o'clock. Something on the dial between 92.4 and 92.5. Sounds like me whispering, but I can't catch the words. Every time I lean in, the sound shifts lower, just out of range. 4:10. The hallway is 40 steps long now. I can't see the back door clearly from the booth anymore. I thought about walking the full length, but the far end looks softer, like the air gets thicker the closer you get. 5 o'clock. The wet patch is gone. The floor is dry, but cold, as if it remembers being wet. 6 o'clock. The light outside is dimmer now. Not darker, just thinner, as if there's less of it in the air. The shadow of the tower is gone completely, but the light still blinks. I've been marking these hours because I don't know how many more I'll get before something folds in here like it does out there. If you're still keeping track of your own, don't stop. The hours might be the only thing holding your version of the day together. 104.3 FM. Ashford. Silas Crane. Keeping the list. Keeping awake. I can feel night pressing in, even though the sky outside never changed. The light didn't fade. It just got heavier, thicker, until the air in here started to look like it was holding shadows in place instead of letting them fall. I've locked the booth door, even though that's pointless if what's out there isn't using the hall. The coax cable is still looped around the handle, but the metal feels warmer now when I touch it, like someone's been gripping it from the other side. 7:10 p.m. The guest chair has moved again. It's against the glass now, angled toward me, but far enough that if someone sat there, I couldn't see their whole face. The chalkboard hasn't changed since "Do not let the guest sit," but the handwriting's deeper, almost carved into the surface. I can feel the grooves when I run my fingers over it. 7:40. The hallway length is holding steady at 40 steps, but the far end is darker than it should be. The light switch still works, but the last 10 feet don't brighten, no matter how much wattage I throw at it. 8:15. On the 92.4 to 92.5 gap, the whispering has grown clearer. Still my voice, but slower. I caught the words this time. Stop turning around. I wasn't, but I have been thinking about it a lot lately. Every time I think I hear something behind me. 8:50. The tower light blinked in the same odd rhythm for 5 minutes straight. Long, short, short, long. I scribbled it down. If it's code, it's repeating something that matters. I don't know if I want to decode it. 9:30. A knock on the booth glass. Not sharp. Just one. Heavy tap. I looked up expecting nothing, but there was a shadow on the other side. Not the man in the brown coat. This one was shorter, shoulders hunched, head tilted forward. Before I could move, the shadow stepped back and vanished. 10:05. The guest chair is closer. Halfway to the desk now. I didn't hear it move. 10:45. I heard footsteps in the hallway, slow, deliberate. 4 steps, a pause, then 3 more. When they stopped, the coax cable on the door handle gave a little pull, like it was being tested. 11:20. The wet patch by the back door is back, but it's different. This time it reflects nothing. It's just black, like looking into a hole that pretends to be shallow. I can't tell if it's actually wet or just pretending to be. 12 o'clock, midnight, or what I'm calling midnight. The hallway's colder now, the booth warmer. The air in here feels like it's leaning in. I've stopped checking my reflection in the glass. I don't want to catch it out of sync again. 12:40. The guest chair is right up against the desk, turned fully toward me now, still empty. 1 a.m. There's a sound from inside the chair, not creaking, breathing, steady, shallow breaths. The cushions move just slightly, like someone's shifting their weight. 1:30. I spoke into the mic just to hear my own voice over it. Halfway through my sentence, the breathing stopped. 2 o'clock. The chair slid back 2 inches while I was looking at my notes. Not a scrape, not a lift. Just there one moment, farther away the next. 2:50. On 101.9, I heard myself describing this exact moment. Same words, same pauses. But in that version, the next thing that happens is the door opening. 3:15. No door opening yet. But the coax is taut, like it's holding weight. 3:40. The chalkboard has one new word under the old. Soon. 4:05. I've decided I won't leave the booth tonight. If the guest sits, I'll keep speaking until it decides whether it wants to be here in my version of the room or not. If you're out there and the night feels heavier than it should, keep the lights on, not for what you can see, but for what they'll keep from getting closer. 104.3 FM. Ashford. Silas Crane. One long night. Still here. Still mine. For now. It's here. The chair isn't empty anymore. I'm not looking directly at it. I can't. Every time my eyes even drift toward the shape in that seat, I feel this pressure at the back of my skull, like my brain's telling me, no, don't give it detail. But I can still see enough in my peripheral to know it's occupied. The air around it is wrong, thick. The space between the arms of the chair looks deeper than it should, like there's more room in there than there is in the booth itself. The fabric of the seat doesn't just sink, it pulls down. There's weight in it. I can hear it breathing, not the shallow rhythm from before. This is slower, heavier. Sometimes it drags in air and holds it, like it's deciding whether to give it back. Every so often, I catch the faintest sound of cloth shifting. Not like clothes against skin, like something brushing against itself, inside itself. I've kept my voice steady for the broadcast. If it reacts to me, it's subtle. Once, when I said my name, the breathing hitched. Another time, when I mentioned the tower light, the sound in the booth shifted, like it had leaned forward just enough to listen closer. The chalkboard outside the booth has changed again. I went out to check it with the flashlight, keeping my back to the chair as I left. In my handwriting, all caps, "Do not turn your head." I didn't write it. Or maybe I did and just don't remember. Either way, I'm following it. The hallway is silent tonight. Too silent. No stretching, no added steps. Just a black strip that starts at the booth door and ends in nothing. When I shine the light down it, the beam stops halfway. Not fades. Stops. The wet patch by the back door is gone again, but the floor is warm there. Warmer than the air in the booth, like someone stood there for a long time. On the dial, my voice is almost everywhere now. Some stations are just catching up, hours behind. Others are ahead, playing things I haven't said yet. I tuned into one a few minutes ago, where I heard myself say, "It's moving." I don't know if that's about to happen or if it's happening now. I've been watching the edge of my vision for any change in the chair. Once, I thought I saw the shape's arm lift slightly, like it was resting an elbow on the armrest. Another time, the darkness inside the shape seemed deeper, like there was an opening there. The breathing's closer now, louder. The sound has weight, as if it's pressing against my own. My hands keep wanting to turn toward it, to look, and I keep stopping myself. If I see its face, if it even has one, I don't think I'll get mine back. The tower light outside is steady again. No code, no flicker. It's almost worse that way. I'm going to keep talking until the sun, if it still knows how, shows itself. I won't turn my head. I won't give it the satisfaction. If you're listening and you've ever felt someone in the room with you, sitting just at the edge of sight, don't look. Don't give them the detail. 104.3 FM, Ashford, Silas Crane. Still at the board. Still in my seat. The guest can have theirs.